So over half of Americans, 53% to be exact, are living paycheck to paycheck right now.
Which is just a wild statistic.
It is. And like, if you're listening right now and sitting there thinking, well, that's just a minimum wage problem, or that's just people who haven't advanced in their careers yet, I really need you to think again.
Yeah, the data paints a very different picture.
Exactly. Because according to the latest research we've been combing through, even 20.6% of households making over $150,000 a year are completely trapped in this exact same cycle.
Over 150 grand.
Right. I want you to genuinely imagine that for a second.
Yeah.
Like, imagine making six figures. You have the impressive job title, you've got the nice apartment, you're doing, everything society told you to do.
Playing by all the rules.
Exactly. And you still have $0 in the bank to cover a sudden medical emergency or, I don't know, a blown transmission on your car. What if everything you've been taught about, like looking rich, is actually a trap specifically designed to keep you broke? This is TeensCore Podcast, where we help you stop being broke, build smart money habits, and take control of your financial future early. But remember, we like to call this a deep dive into the absolute best financial research out there.
And it is so incredibly important that we're doing this deep dive today because, if you are a teen or a young adult trying to navigate the world right now, money doesn't just feel confusing. It feels, honestly, actively hostile.
Oh, totally.
It's stressful. It feels completely out of your control. You open your phone and you might be experiencing this massive wave of FOMO as you just, scroll through social media, seeing people your exact age seemingly living these luxury lifestyles.
While you're just sitting in your room like, what am I doing wrong?
Right. And you are constantly being tempted by the frictionless, one-tap checkout of TikTok Shop or Instagram ads that somehow know exactly what you want before you even realize you want it.
It's creepy. It's actually creepy.
It is. Or maybe you're just stressed because you got your very first real paycheck, and between taxes, food, and just basic survival, it disappeared the instant it hit your account.
Vanished into thin air. Like, you look at the deposit on Friday, and by Tuesday, you're wondering if you were ever actually paid at all.
Yeah, the money's just gone. And the stakes of figuring this out early are actually incredibly high. We aren't just talking about, having a little extra spending cash on the weekend. If you ignore how this modern financial ecosystem operates, you risk falling into what economists call the Henry trap.
The Henry trap.
Right, which stands for high earner, not rich yet. We'll get into that more later, but honestly, worse than that, you risk losing the absolute most valuable financial asset you currently possess, which is not your income.
What is it then?
It is your time. If you don't grasp these concepts right now, you will spend the next 3 decades working purely to service debt. So by the end of this deep dive, you aren't just going to learn the boring mechanics of how to budget. We want to show you how to literally buy back your future freedom.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah, we're going to break down how to recognize the deeply hidden psychological traps set by retail algorithms, and most importantly, how to build what modern financial educators are calling a financial 2.0 infrastructure.
Financial 2.0.
Right. It's basically an automated system that works for you, growing your wealth quietly in the background while you sleep.
Man, okay, let's start unpacking this.
Yeah.
Because before we can even begin to talk about how to save a single dollar or, what a 401k is, we really need to understand the psychology of why we're spending it so fast.
Yes, the root cause.
Because I'll be honest, reading through these sources, it genuinely feels like we are biologically and technologically wired to just empty our wallets on command. The research dives heavily into this concept of doom spending and dopamine spending. And I have to say, it kind of terrified me.
It should terrify you, honestly. It's fascinating from a behavioral science perspective, but it is deeply predatory. The modern digital environment that you interact with on your phone every single day, it isn't just an accident.
Right.
It's not just a convenient way to shop. It has been heavily intentionally engineered by literally some of the smartest software developers on the planet to exploit your brain's status-related dopamine circuits.
Okay, wait, break that down. Status-related dopamine.
Yeah, so as humans, we have these ancient evolutionary drives to signal our status to our peers. 1,000 years ago, that meant, having the best tools or the most food. Today, retail platforms have weaponized that exact same biological drive.
It's adapted it for the digital age.
Exactly. When you add an item to your cart and hit buy, You get a literal chemical hit of dopamine in your brain. But the research from Stanford's Neuroscience lab reveals something incredible about this. You aren't actually deriving pleasure from the product itself. The spike happens during the anticipation.
Oh.
You are literally buying the dopamine spike.
So it's the thrill of the hunt, basically.
Yes.
You hit confirm purchase with Apple Pay, you get that little satisfying chime on your phone, and you feel amazing for about 10 minutes. But then the package actually arrives 3 days later, you rip open the cardboard, and you just feel nothing.
Right. It's just a thing. The transaction itself was the product as far as your brain's reward center is concerned. And for teenagers and young adults right now, this biological vulnerability is colliding with a very difficult macroeconomic reality.
Which makes it so much worse.
It does. It's manifesting in a massive behavioral shift that economists are calling the lipstick effect, or affordable affluence.
Affordable affluence. Okay, what does that actually look like for someone listening to this right now, like in their day-to-day life?
It looks like an entire generation pivoting their financial goals because the traditional ones just feel totally broken. Think about the major traditional milestones of adulthood, right? Buying a house, having a massive wedding, retiring comfortably.
Yeah, the classic American dream stuff.
Exactly. To a lot of 22-year-olds dealing with modern inflation and skyrocketing housing costs, those goals feel mathematically impossible. They feel like fiction.
Just a pipe dream at this point.
Right. So the psychological response is to say, well, if I can't ever afford a down payment on a house anyway, I might as well enjoy my life today. So they pivot to buying what we call micro-luxuries.
Ah, okay. So this is like the $7 iced matcha latte with oat milk and cold foam.
Yes, exactly.
Or spending $100 on an elaborate skincare routine because you saw an influencer do it.
Precisely. Or hunting down a highly sought-after goop of a designer cosmetic product, or entering a digital raffle just for the chance to buy a limited edition resale sneaker drop.
People go crazy for those sneaker drops.
Oh, they do. And the PwC consumer data we analyzed for this deep dive shows that a staggering 82% of Gen Z plans to purchase dupes this season. 82%.
That's massive.
It's huge. They are buying these micro-luxuries to telegraph cultural relevance. It's a psychological coping mechanism. It's a way of signaling to the world, hey, I might be locked out of the middle-class dream of owning a home, but I have taste, I am in the know, and I belong to this cultural social class.
That makes so much sense when you put it like that.
And retail apps understand this desperation. They provide the instant gratification to soothe that financial anxiety, creating this powerful, deeply ingrained habit loop of doom spending.
I hear that, and it makes complete sense. But, I have to stop and push back on this for a second. When you frame it like that, I start wondering, is it actually my fault if I'm broke? Or is this entire capitalist system just completely rigged against us? Because the way you're describing these retail apps, it sounds like modern spending is basically like playing a video game where the final boss, like the algorithm, has access to my exact psychological weaknesses, all of my browsing history, and just infinite resources to exploit me. How is an 18-year-old supposed to fight that?
I think that is the perfect analogy. The boss is absolutely rigged, and the arena you are fighting in is designed to make you lose.
Right.
The system is fundamentally architected to separate you from your money with zero friction. One click, and the money is gone before you even have time to reconsider. But, and this is a very important pivot we have to make here, even if the boss is overpowered, you are the one holding the controller.
Okay, fair point.
We can acknowledge that the system is predatory while still taking radical responsibility for our own actions. To beat the algorithm, you have to look inward at the underlying psychology that makes you vulnerable to it in the first place. Why does one person buy the sneakers they can't afford while another person just closes the app?
Right, what's the difference there?
This brings us to the fascinating work of financial psychologist Dr. Brad Klontz. He studies what he calls money scripts.
Money scripts, like literal dialogue we read to ourselves in our heads.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
They are core subconscious beliefs about money that we develop, usually in early childhood, based entirely on the emotional environment we grew up in. They are the invisible operating system running in the background of every single financial decision you make.
Wow, okay.
Dr. Klontz identified 4 main strips, and I guarantee everyone listening will recognize themselves in at least one of these. The first one is money avoidance. This is the deep-seated belief that money is inherently bad or corrupting, or that you personally just don't deserve it.
Wait, really? Why would someone think they don't deserve it?
Well, it often comes from growing up in an environment where rich people were constantly vilified, or maybe where money was the source of bitter family arguments.
Oh, I see. Like if your parents fought about bills all the time.
Exactly. People with the script might actually subconsciously sabotage their own financial success. They might avoid looking at their bank statements entirely because it causes them intense anxiety, or they might undercharge for their services at work because they subconsciously think wanting money makes them a greedy person.
That is wild to think you could be sabotaging yourself without even knowing it. Okay, what is the second script?
The second is money worship. And this is the deeply held, almost religious belief that more money will literally solve all of life's problems. It's the idea that, if I just had that next raise, or if I could just afford that specific designer bag, or if I could just drive that car, I would finally be happy and complete.
But the finish line for that just keeps moving, doesn't it? Like you get the raise, you feel good for a month, and then you just want the next raise.
Exactly. It's a hedonic treadmill. You never actually arrive at happiness.
Yeah.
The third script is money status, which is highly relevant to the micro-luxuries and doom spending we were just dissecting. This script equates your net worth directly with your self-worth. If you have this script running in your head, you are incredibly vulnerable to performative spending on social media. You buy things strictly to prove to other people that you are successful.
Okay, so that's the person going into massive credit card debt to look rich on Instagram. Or buying VIP tables at a club when they literally can't make rent on the first of the month.
Precisely. They are funding a theatrical production of wealth rather than building actual wealth.
That is such a good way to put it. A theatrical production of wealth.
And the fourth and final script is money vigilance. This is sort of the opposite end of the spectrum. This is compulsive saving and extreme frugality, but it's driven by deep anxiety and a scarcity mindset rather than a healthy, calculated financial strategy.
So someone who's just terrified to spend a single dime, even on things they desperately need, or things that bring them genuine joy, because they're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yes. They might have $100,000 in the bank, but they will still agonize over a $5 purchase because they don't view money as a tool. They view it as a shield against catastrophe.
It's actually crazy how much childhood plays into this.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, if you grew up constantly hearing your parents stressed out at the kitchen table saying, we can't afford that or money doesn't grow on trees over and over again, you internalize that stress.
You absolutely do.
And it seems like you either rebel against it by doom spending the second you get your own paycheck to prove you aren't deprived anymore, or you hoard your money because you have literal financial trauma.
That is exactly how the psychology works. Recognizing which script you are running is the critical first step to overrating it. You have to shine a light on that invisible code. But insight alone isn't enough to beat the algorithm we talked about earlier. No. There are actual actionable ways to break this dopamine spending loop. And it's not just about trying really hard to have more willpower. Willpower is a finite resource. It depletes at the end of a long day.
So true.
Research from University College London shows that breaking a deeply ingrained habit loop takes an average of 66 days of consistent environmental architecture.
Environmental architecture.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that, but what does it actually mean for my phone and my daily life?
Right.
Like practically.
It means designing your digital and physical environment so that the default state requires significant effort to spend money. You have to introduce friction.
Okay.
Step 1, you delete all retail apps from your phone. Amazon, Target, TikTok Shop, all of them, gone.
Just delete them all.
Yes. If you genuinely need to buy something, force yourself to use the mobile browser. It's clunkier, it's slower, you have to log in manually. That tiny bit of friction gives your brain a crucial microsecond to pause and ask, wait, do I actually need this?
That's really smart. It ruins the seamless magic of the app.
Exactly. Step 2. Remove all saved payment information from your browsers and your devices. Do not let Chrome or Safari autofill your credit card. Force yourself to physically stand up, walk across the room, find your physical wallet, and type in those 16 digits every single time you want to buy something.
Oh man, that sounds so annoying. Which is exactly the point, I guess.
It is entirely the point. You are making the bad habit annoying. And finally, step 3. Implement a strict 24-hour rule for any non-essential purchase.
So you put the item in the digital cart, but you just close the tab and walk away?
You put it in the cart, you close the tab, and you sleep on it. If you still intensely want it 24 hours later and you have the money in your budget for it, you can buy it. But I promise you, 90% of the time, that dopamine urge will have completely evaporated by the next morning. You will look at the cart and think, why did I even want this?
Okay, so let's imagine the listener takes this to heart. They successfully detox from the dopamine trap. They delete the apps, they recognize their money scripts, and they stop spending just to look rich. Here's where we really need to shift the conversation. Because if looking rich is a trap, what does actual wealth even look like?
Right?
We are surrounded by so many illusions of wealth on social media that we have to completely shatter this foundational idea of what a millionaire actually is.
We really do. We have to tear down the Hollywood facade. Let me ask you, when you hear the word millionaire, what image immediately pops into your head?
Oh, totally. A 25-year-old tech bro or crypto trader in Beverly Hills driving a matte black customized G-Wagon, wearing a Rolex, and dressed in streetwear that somehow costs more than my rent. Just completely flashing wealth at every possible moment.
Right. That is the media-curated image of wealth. But the groundbreaking empirical research by Dr. Thomas J. Stanley in his famous massive study, The Millionaire Next Door, proves the image is almost entirely false. Yes. He spent years surveying and studying thousands of actual millionaires across America to find out who they really were and how they got there. And what he found was shocking. The average American millionaire is not a tech bro in a G-Wagon.
Okay, then who is it?
The average millionaire is a 57-year-old living in a perfectly normal, slightly older, middle-class neighborhood. They drive a 3-year-old used Ford or Toyota, not a Ferrari. They buy their suits off the rack at normal department stores for under $400.
Wait, seriously, a used Ford. If you have millions of dollars, why wouldn't you buy the luxury car?
Because that is exactly how they acquired millions of dollars in the first place. True wealth isn't the flashy car or the giant mansion. There's a brilliant paradigm-shifting quote from the sources we analyzed for this deep dive. Wealth is what you don't see.
Wealth is what you don't see. That is powerful.
True wealth is the invisible investment. It's the fully funded retirement accounts sitting quietly in the background. It's the 6 months of living expenses sitting in an emergency fund. And most importantly, it is the freedom of time. People who visibly look rich, the ones driving the least luxury cars and wearing the designer logos, are very often drowning in high-interest debt just to maintain the illusion of that image. Genuine wealth is invisible to the naked eye.
That concept completely reframes a story we found in the research about a guy named Tom Nardone. They called him the Millionaire Mailman.
Yes, his story is incredible.
When I first read that, I thought it was a joke. He was literally a 19-year-old postal worker in Michigan. We're not talking about investment banker's salary here. We were talking about a government postal route.
Yeah.
But he built a verified net worth of over $10 million.
$10 million. Just mind-blowing.
And he didn't do it by getting lucky on a meme coin or inventing an app. He did it through relentless, quiet, consistent saving. He completely opted out of the status game. While his peers were financing new cars they couldn't afford to impress girls, he drove a beater. He saved up, bought a really unglamorous, ugly duplex, lived in half of it, and rented out the other half to cover his mortgage.
Such a classic wealth-building move.
Right, and he just kept repeating that process, slowly accumulating assets while completely flying under the radar. He never looked like a millionaire, but he possessed total, unbreakable financial security.
Tom Nardone is the absolute perfect embodiment of what Dr. Stanley, in his research, calls a PAW, a prodigious accumulator of wealth.
A PAW, okay.
Yes, he built wealth relative to his income at an astonishing rate. And there's actually a fascinating, somewhat brutal math equation from the Stanley research that you can do right now to figure out if you are on track to be a PAW or if you fall into the other category, a UAW.
An under-accumulator of wealth.
Exactly.
Well, I love a good diagnostic test. Break down the math for me. How does it work?
It's a simple formula, but it is highly revealing. You take your current age, multiply it by your annual pre-tax household income, and then divide that resulting number by 10.
Okay, let me walk through a hypothetical scenario for the listener so we can see this in action.
Yeah, for it.
Let's say you have a listener who is 24 years old, and they recently got a solid job making $50,000 a year. So I take 24, multiply it by 50,000, which gives me 1.2 million. Then I divide that by 10. That leaves me with $120,000.
Right.
Wait, hold on. Are you telling me a 24-year-old making 50 grand is supposed to have $120,000 saved up? Because if they just graduated college, That feels literally impossible. My ratio would have been humiliating at that age.
And that is a very valid critique of the formula. Dr. Stanley's math works exceptionally well for people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s who have actually had time to let compounding interest work. For a 22 or 24-year-old just entering the workforce, the formula is going to look demoralizing.
Yeah, completely.
But I want young listeners to use it not as a grade they're failing, but as a directional compass. The concept remains true. Let's look at someone a bit older to see how it functions. Let's take a 30-year-old making $80,000 a year.
Okay.
30 times 80,000 is 2.4 million. Divided by 10 is 240,000. So their benchmark net worth should be $240,000. Now, if their actual net worth, which is their savings plus their investments minus all their debts, is twice that benchmark amount, so $480,000, they are officially a prodigious accumulator of wealth. They are financially rushing it.
Wow. Okay, and what if they're below it?
If their net worth is half that benchmark amount, so $120,000 or less, they're an under-accumulator of wealth. It means they're consistently spending too much of what they bring in, regardless of how high their salary is.
That is a harsh reality check. Because someone making a massive salary, let's say $250,000 a year, might do that math, look at their bank account, and realize their net worth is basically zero because they spend every single dime on a luxury lifestyle.
Precisely. High income does not equal high wealth. And very often, among young adults, that high-spending aesthetic lifestyle is secretly subsidized by what Dr. Stanley's research calls EOC, or economic outpatient care.
Economic outpatient care. That sounds like a sterile hospital term. What does that actually mean?
It functions very much like financial life support. EOC is what happens when adult children rely on their parents for continuous financial bailouts. It's the parent stepping in to help with the down payment on an apartment that is out of the kid's budget, or quietly paying off a crippling credit card bill, or funding aesthetic vacations the adult child cannot actually afford on their own.
Got it.
Now, parents do this out of love, obviously. They want to help, but the data shows overwhelmingly that it backfires. The more economic outpatient care an adult child receives, the less wealth they actually accumulate themselves over their lifetime.
Really? Even though they are literally being given free money?
Yes, because it completely hinders their ability to become financially independent. They never feel the natural, painful consequences of overspending. If you know deep down that your parents will always catch you when you fall, you never develop the internal discipline required to build your own safety net. You become financially stunted.
Okay, I hear all of this, but let me step into the shoes of the listener and play devil's advocate for a second here.
Let's do it.
We are talking about tracking every dollar, driving used cars, avoiding status games, and hoarding cash like Tom Nardone. But isn't the whole point of having money to actually enjoy it? Like if I'm just diligently calculating my paw status every month and hoarding all my cash like a dragon in a cave while driving a rusty Ford, aren't I missing out on life? What is the actual point of dying at 90 years old with a massive bank account if you never took a vacation, never bought the nice dinner, and never truly lived?
That is a crucial pushback, and it's a trap that many hyper-frugal people fall into. This brings us to a psychological extreme called savings trauma.
Savings trauma.
Yes, extreme frugality can absolutely become a pathology where you literally cannot enjoy the fruits of your labor because then the mere act of spending money causes you physical anxiety.
That sounds awful.
It is. The ultimate goal of building wealth is not lifelong deprivation. The goal is what financial planners refer to as decumulation at the right time. But to answer your question directly, money's greatest intrinsic value, and this really cannot be overstated, is its unique ability to buy you options and give you ultimate control over your time.
Right, so it's not just about trying to get the highest possible score on a banking app screen.
Exactly. It is about buying agency. True wealth is being able to confidently walk into the office of a toxic, abusive boss and quit on the spot because you have a 2-year safety net and you don't need their paycheck to survive.
That's the dream.
It's about being able to take 6 unpaid months off work to care for a sick parent without panicking about eviction. It's about having the option to completely pivot your career at 35 to do something you actually love that pays less because your investments are covering the gap. True wealth buys freedom and peace of mind. It doesn't just buy stuff.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So what does this all mean for the people who are out there making decent money right now? Because if true wealth is hidden and invisible, why are so many young professionals who visibly look incredibly rich actually struggling behind closed doors? We need to talk about this trap of making really good money, but managing to keep absolutely none of it.
This is arguably a massive epidemic among young professionals right now. It is the Henry problem we touched on at the very beginning. High earner, not rich yet.
I feel like we all know a Henry, like the person with the great title who is somehow always stressing about splitting the dinner bill.
We do all know one, or we have been one. And the macro statistics are staggering. We know 42% of Gen Z is living paycheck to paycheck. But the critical nuance here is that it's not just entry-level minimum wage workers. We're seeing a huge growing demographic of young, highly educated professionals pulling in over $100,000 a year who are completely financially redlined.
Completely maxed out.
Yes. Vivian, too, a former Wall Street trader turned financial educator whose work we reviewed, points out something brutal but perfectly accurate. If you are making $105,000 in a major metropolitan hub like New York, Los Angeles, or San Francisco, you are essentially what she calls upper poor.
Upper poor. Wow. Ouch. That stings to hear, especially if you worked incredibly hard for that six-figure salary.
It does sting.
But the math checks out. I mean, the rent for a studio in those cities alone eats up half your take-home pay after taxes. But beyond just cost of living, why do these high earners feel so incredibly broke?
The primary psychological culprit behind the Henry phenomenon is lifestyle creep, which is also known as lifestyle inflation. It is a fundamental, almost unbreakable rule of behavioral economics. If your expectations and your material desires grow at the exact same rate as your income, you will never, ever be happy with your money, no matter how much you accumulate.
You know, in previous discussions on these concepts, people used to call it a treadmill. But honestly, a better analogy for Gen Z is a smartphone OS update.
Oh, I like that. How so?
Think about it. You get a promotion, your income goes up. It's like downloading the brand new iOS. You think your phone's going to run faster and better. But secretly, the new update installs a bunch of background apps. You suddenly feel the need to move from a walk-up to an apartment with a doorman. You trade in your reliable Honda for a leased BMW, and suddenly you're ordering Uber Black instead of taking the subway. Those new lifestyle apps are constantly running in the background, draining your battery faster than before. You upgraded your income, but your battery is dying faster.
I love that analogy. It perfectly captures the invisible drain. You scale your lifestyle perfectly to match your new income capacity, leaving 0% margin for actual wealth building. And this entire process is driven almost entirely by social comparison.
So how do you stop it?
To combat lifestyle creep, before you make a significant lifestyle upgrade or a major purchase, you have to stop and ask yourself a brutally honest psychological question. Is this desire or is this display?
Desire or display. I really like that framing. Walk me through how to use that in the real world.
Ask yourself, do I genuinely deeply want this item because it improves the functional quality of my daily life? Or do I want it primarily so that other people know I have the financial ability to buy it?
Oof, it's a tough question to answer, honestly.
It is. But if the core motivation is display, it's a trap. It is performative. The wealthy people who actually stay wealthy consistently prioritize purchases that improve their daily, private, untelevised lives. Things like investing in a high-quality mattress for better sleep, buying high-quality whole foods, or buying back their own time by hiring a house cleaner. They prioritize that over items meant purely to impress strangers in traffic.
Because when you spend predominantly for display, to keep up an aesthetic, you almost always end up utilizing consumer debt to bridge the gap between what you make and what you want to project. And earlier in the research, it was explicitly stated that debt is a leash.
It is the ultimate invisible leash. Every single dollar you borrow on a high-interest credit card to fund a lifestyle you cannot organically afford is a literal mathematical robbery of your future self. When you are strapped with 20% interest consumer debt, you completely lose those options we talked about earlier.
You're just trapped.
Exactly. You can't take a calculated risk on joining a startup. You can't easily move to a cheaper, cooler city. You can't comfortably leave a bad relationship because you rely on a dual income. You are firmly leashed to your next paycheck just to service the interest payments on things you probably don't even care about anymore.
Okay, so we've fully diagnosed the illness here.
Yeah.
We know the dopamine traps of the apps. We understand the illusion of flashy wealth versus the millionaire next door. And we see the creeping danger of upgrading our lifestyle OS too fast. So how do we actually fix the code? We have to bring up the dreaded B word.
Budgeting.
Budgeting. Just saying the word makes people's eyes glaze over. It sounds like a diet. It sounds restrictive like a financial straitjacket. It sounds like admitting defeat.
And that stigma is entirely valid and completely understandable. We have to acknowledge why people deeply, viscerally hate budgeting. As we discussed earlier with the dopamine, neuroscience shows us the other side of the coin, too. Spending money actually activates the same physical pain receptors in the brain as a minor injury.
No way. Really?
Yes, it literally hurts the human brain to part with resources. Traditional budgeting takes that subconscious pain and makes it highly, agonizingly visible. It forces you to sit down and stare at every single transaction.
Right. Nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to look at a spreadsheet and confront the fact that they spent $400 on Uber Eats in a single month when they had groceries literally rotting in the fridge. The shame is overwhelming.
Exactly. And there is brilliant insight on this dynamic from financial expert Dana, who is featured on the Money with Katie show. She dug into the behavioral research and found that traditional restrictive budgeting acts exactly like yo-yo dieting and fitness.
How so? Walk me through the parallel there.
Think about what happens when you put yourself on a highly restrictive crash diet. You cut out all carbs, all sugar, and you rely entirely on willpower. Eventually, willpower snaps, and you binge eat an entire pizza.
Guilty.
Right. We've all been there. The exact same mechanism applies to finance. When you put yourself on a highly restrictive, guilt-driven budget where you aren't allowed to spend a dime on fun, you eventually experience what behavioral researchers call frugality fatigue. The psychological toll of constantly denying yourself builds up over weeks, and eventually you crack. You have a massive binge spending episode, maybe you blow $1,000 on a weekend trip you can't really afford, and it completely blows up all your progress. It's totally unsustainable.
So what is the alternative then? Just throwing our hands up, giving up, and letting the financial chips fall where they may?
No, it's about shifting the entire psychological paradigm of how we view our money. We have to stop viewing budgeting as a straitjacket of restriction and start viewing it as a powerful tool for control. It's not a budget. It's a conscious spending plan.
A conscious spending plan.
Yeah. The goal isn't to not spend money. That's a miserable way to live.
Yeah.
The goal is to ensure your spending is highly intentional and aligned with the things you actually care about.
Right. So it's understanding the difference between uncontrolled spending, which is just reactive and emotional, like buying a bunch of stuff online at midnight because you had a terrible day at work and need a hit of dopamine, versus controlled spending, which is proactive, planned, and value-driven.
Exactly. You are putting the money where your values are rather than where your impulses are.
Wait, so you're telling me I can still buy my $6 iced coffee? Because I swear, every single financial guru on the internet points to my daily coffee as the exact reason I can't afford a down payment on a house. They make it sound like a moral failing.
You can absolutely buy your iced coffee. In fact, agonizing over a $6 latte is a massive, mathematically insignificant distraction. It's the perfectionism trap. Highly successful wealth builders do not waste their cognitive energy worrying about small daily purchases. They focus their energy on what financial planners call the big wins.
The heavy hitters, the things that actually move the needle.
Right. You need to focus your limited energy on keeping your major fixed costs low and maximizing your incoming revenue, specifically your rent, your car payment, your insurance, and negotiating your salary.
Okay, that makes sense.
Think about the math. If you do the hard work to get your housing costs down to 25% of your income instead of 40%, maybe by getting a roommate, and you successfully negotiate a $10,000 raise at work, you have just freed up massive monthly cash flow. At that point, you can buy a $6 latte every single day for the rest of your life, and it simply won't matter to your bottom line. Get the 3 or 4 big structural decisions right, and you literally do not have to sweat the small stuff.
That is incredibly freeing. It takes the guilt completely out of the daily routine. Okay, so let's get hyper-practical here. How does a young adult actually set up a system to do this? Because if we have to rely on sheer willpower every single Tuesday to make good financial choices, we know we're going to fail. We need mechanical frameworks. Let's break down the primary methods from the research so the listener can essentially choose their fighter based on their personality type.
I love that approach. Let's start with the most famous and widely accessible framework, the 5D-30-20 rule. This is fantastic for people who want broad, easy-to-follow guidelines without having to track every single penny on a spreadsheet.
How does it break down?
It dictates that 50% of your after-tax take-home pay goes to absolute needs. This is your rent, basic groceries, utilities, and minimum debt payments. 30% goes to wants. This is dining out, entertainment, travel, the iced coffee. And 20% goes strictly to savings, investing, and aggressive extra debt payoff. It's simple, it's flexible, and it provides immediate boundaries.
Okay, but what if I'm someone who needs way more structure than that? Like I'm the type of person where if I just have a vague 30% bucket for wants, the money still manages to slip through my fingers and I don't know where it went.
And you are the perfect candidate for zero-based budgeting. This is highly meticulous and requires active management. At the start of the month, before you spend anything, you assign every single dollar of your expected income a specific job. Rent gets a job, groceries get a job, savings get a job.
Down to the last cent.
Exactly. The core rule is that at the end of the month, your income minus your expenses must equal exactly zero. Every dollar is accounted for. It forces total, unblinking awareness and control over your cash flow.
I feel like that one takes some practice and discipline, but I can see how powerful it is once you get the hang of it. What is the third framework?
The third is a philosophical shift called pay yourself first. This completely flips the traditional flawed model of personal finance upside down. Think about how most people operate. They get paid, they pay their rent, they buy their groceries, they go out on the weekend, they buy some clothes, and then on the 30th of the month, they check their account to see if there's anything left to save.
And spoiler alert, there never is.
Never. The money expands to fill the space available.
So true.
Precisely. With Pay Yourself First, the absolute first bill you pay every single month is to your own future self. The moment your paycheck hits your checking account, an automated transfer immediately moves 20% of it into a separate savings or investment account, entirely out of sight. Then you are forced to live on whatever 80% is left. It mathematically ensures your future self gets paid before Apple, Amazon, or your landlord does.
That leads perfectly into the fourth and final framework we found, which was developed by the Liberty University School of Business, the LGOG framework. It stands for Live, Give, O.W.E.
Yes, this one is very holistic and focuses on the purpose of money, not just the math. Live covers your basic living expenses and lifestyle. Give intentionally builds in philanthropy and generosity, which research shows is actually phenomenal for your mental health in combating a scarcity mindset.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Then O focuses aggressively on recognizing, avoiding, and eliminating high-interest debt. And G.R.O.W focuses on maintaining margin, creating that crucial financial wiggle room at the end of the month so you can actively invest and grow your wealth.
Okay, so we have these four frameworks. But what I absolutely love most from the Vivian 2 interview we analyzed is this overarching concept she calls Financial 2.0. She argues that at a certain point, wealth building isn't actually about having incredible discipline. It's entirely about having incredible infrastructure.
It's a brilliant framing that removes the moral weight from finance. Financial 2.0 is the profound realization that human willpower is a finite, unreliable resource. If you have to wake up every single day and actively choose not to spend money, you will eventually have a bad day and you will lose. So instead of relying on willpower, you build unfeeling robotic systems that grow your wealth in the background automatically.
It's like setting up the plumbing in a house. You don't carry buckets of water to the sink every time you want to drink. You lay the pipes once, and the water just flows exactly where it needs to go automatically.
Exactly. You do the hard work once to set up the pipes. You set up automated transfers to a high-yield savings account so your emergency fund builds itself. You automate your 401k or Roth IRA contributions before the money even hits your checking account. You set up automatic bill pay for your utilities so you never ever get hit with a late fee. You put your financial life on autopilot.
I love that.
Vivian, too, uses a great analogy. Think of it like running a luxury hotel. You have different infrastructures for different needs. The front desk handles the daily checking account transactions. The concierge handles long-term investment planning. Housekeeping does the routine maintenance of paying bills. You need to hire and build those digital teams, those automated accounts, to manage your own money so you don't have to think about it constantly.
Let me paint a picture of two different Gen Z approaches from the Wealth Tender research to really illustrate how critical this infrastructure is. Let's look at a hypothetical investor named Emily versus, let's just call him the crypto gambler.
Okay, let's hear it.
So Emily is operating on full Financial 2.0. Before she can even spell personal finance, her banking app is programmed to automatically move 10% of her net pay into a high-yield savings account earning 5% interest. Another app automatically invests $50 a week into a boring broad market index fund. She doesn't think about it. She doesn't check the stock market. It just happens in the background while she lives her life.
She has built a highly resilient, anti-fragile infrastructure.
Right. Contrast that with what we are seeing across a huge swath of Gen Z right now. The data shows 55% of Gen Z investors are heavily invested in highly speculative crypto assets and meme coins. And it's not just a small fun bet. Their median allocation is a staggering 25% of their entire investment portfolio.
Which is incredibly risky.
Right, but I want to be fair to them. I get why they do it. If the traditional paths to wealth like buying a starter home feel completely broken and out of reach, dropping money on a dog-themed meme coin feels like the only viable lottery ticket out of the rat race.
And that psychological feeling of being locked out is entirely valid. The frustration with the system is real. But we have to look at the math. A 25% allocation in highly volatile speculative assets is staggering when you consider that institutional financial giants, like BlackRock, recommend a maximum of a 1 to 2% allocation for those types of assets.
1 to 2%, wow.
Yeah. 25% isn't an investment strategy. It's a casino mentality driven by desperation. They are exposing themselves to catastrophic risk. Without the boring, automated plumbing infrastructure that Emily has built, one bad market swing can wipe out their entire net worth. You cannot build a house on a foundation of lottery tickets.
Okay, let me throw a wrench into Emily's perfect automated system, because this is where I always messed up when I was younger. What about the non-monthly expenses?
Yes.
I would set up a perfect 50-30-20 budget. I was feeling great, and then suddenly in October, my car brakes start grinding, I need new tires, and suddenly I owe the mechanic $800. It completely blows up the entire month's budget. I have to put the bill on a high-interest credit card, and I sit there feeling like a total failure who just isn't smart enough to budget.
And that exact scenario is why most people quit budgeting entirely. They view predictable, irregular expenses as emergencies. But I need everyone listening to hear this. A car needing maintenance after 20,000 miles is not an emergency. It is a mathematical certainty.
Ouch. Fair enough.
Christmas happening in December is not a surprise emergency. It happens every year. The solution to this structural flaw is what financial planners call a sinking fund.
A sinking fund? That sounds terrible. Is it like a ship going down?
No, sinking as in slowly setting money down into a specific dedicated bucket over time. Think of it not as a surprise expense, but as a monthly subscription to driving your car.
Oh, a subscription. Okay.
Here is how it works. You take an expected annual cost, let's say based on history. You know you spend about $1,200 a year on car maintenance, oil changes, and registration. You take that annual number and divide it by 12. That's $100 a month. You build that $100 into your fixed monthly budget, and you automate a transfer, moving it into a separate, specific sub-savings account labeled car maintenance.
So the money is just sitting there, quarantined?
Exactly. Fast forward to October. The brakes start grinding. You take it to the shop, and the bill is $800. You don't panic. You don't touch your credit card. You just pull the $800 out of the sinking fund that has been building up all year. The money was sitting right there, waiting to do its specific job. You have completely neutralized the emotional threat of the expense.
That honestly changes everything. It takes the emotion, the shame, and the panic completely out of the equation. Which brings us perfectly to the final, most important piece of this deep dive. As a young adult listening to this, you might feel behind. You might feel overwhelmed by the algorithms and the math, but you actually possess two massive, unparalleled advantages that older generations would literally pay millions of dollars to get back. You have time, and you have transparency.
Time is the ultimate mathematical multiplier. This brings us to the magic of compound interest, which Albert Einstein supposedly called the eighth wonder of the world.
Let's illustrate exactly how powerful time is with a clear example from the HKS Student Policy Review data we found. Let's look at the tale of two friends. We have Jake. Jake is 27. Jake lived the YOLO life in his early 20s. He funded a highly aesthetic life for social media. He traveled, he racked up what Gen Z calls Ticketmaster debt, going to every major concert, and he spent every dime he made.
A very common story.
Very common. He figured investing in retirement was a problem for future Jake. But now he's almost 30, he has zero savings, and he's starting to panic. Then we have his friend, who we'll call Sarah. Sarah started investing just $200 a month into an index fund when she was 22.
That is just a 5-year difference in starting age.
Right, just 5 years. But because Sarah started at 22, her money has been compounding. Her money has been earning interest, and then that interest is earning its own interest, snowballing down a hill. Jake, starting at 27, realizes he needs to catch up. But the math is brutal. Because he lost those 5 years of compounding, he now has to contribute drastically more money every single month. We're talking hundreds of dollars more out of every paycheck just to catch up to where Sarah's going to be. Delaying your savings rate by just 5 short years requires a massive mathematical penalty later in life to reach the exact same financial goal.
It highlights the most crucial foundational lesson in personal finance. time in the market absolutely destroys timing the market. You do not need to be a genius stock picker. You cannot force an oak tree to grow overnight no matter how much water or fertilizer you pour on it. It just needs time. That is the true superpower of youth. Every dollar you invest at 20 is worth exponentially more than a dollar invested at 40.
And the second superpower this generation has is transparency, which is leading to this incredible, highly positive cultural shift. The Bank of America data showed something amazing that older generations never did. Gen Z is totally redefining financial boundaries. 42% of Gen Z is now actively practicing a trend called loud budgeting.
I love the loud budgeting movement. It is the perfect antidote to the FOMO and the status signaling we talked about at the very beginning of this deep dive.
Tell me more about it.
Loud budgeting is the intentional act of being vocally transparent and unapologetic with your peer group about your financial goals and limitations. Instead of making up a fake excuse about why you can't go to a $200 group dinner or quietly putting it on a credit card and resenting your friends, you just say openly, hey, I am practicing loud budgeting this month because I'm aggressively saving for a security deposit on a new place, so I'm going to pass on the expensive dinner, but let's grab a coffee and walk in the park on Saturday instead.
It is the ultimate social flex. It's taking the power back from the algorithm. It turns the deep shame of, I'm broke into the incredible empowerment of, I have firm boundaries, I have a plan, and I respect my future self. And the most fascinating part is that it is fundamentally changing the dating scene too. The data shows over half of Gen Z, 51%, spend exactly $0 a month on romantic dates.
The rise of the $0 date.
Yes. Going for a walk, hitting up a free museum day, staying in and cooking a meal together instead of dropping $100 at a loud restaurant. And get this, 74% of surveyed young adults say that clear financial responsibility is actually a highly attractive trait in a potential partner.
Because it signals deep maturity. It signals stability, discipline, and emotional control. It shows that you aren't a victim of the marketing algorithm and that you have a vision for your future. That is incredibly magnetic.
Okay. We have covered a truly massive amount of ground today. We've gone from the neuroscience of apps to the math of compound interest. Let's land the plane. Give the listener the rapid-fire recap of the core principles we just unpacked.
Absolutely. Number 1, understand that the digital system is technologically engineered to make you doom spend for quick dopamine hits. Protect your environment by adding friction. Delete the apps.
Love that.
Number 2, shatter the illusion. True wealth is mostly invisible. It is about buying options, freedom, and time, not about financing flashy cars to impress strangers. Number 3, stop relying on willpower because it will fail you. Build a financial 2.0 infrastructure with automated savings, index funds, and sinking funds. And number 4, use the unparalleled superpower of your youth. Start investing right now, today, to leverage the magic of compound interest and use loud budgeting to protect your goals from toxic social pressure.
And remember, as you listen to this, doing well with money has very little to do with how smart you are or what your GPA was. It has absolutely everything to do with how you behave. Small, consistent, highly intentional actions compound over time into massive, life-changing results.
I want to leave the listener with a final, slightly provocative challenge. I want you to try this today. For just the next 7 days, track your spending. Don't change your habits. Don't try to be perfect. And absolutely do not judge yourself. Just write down every dollar that leaves your account.
Okay.
I guarantee you will find just one micro leak. Maybe it's a streaming subscription you forgot you were paying for, or a daily habit you realize you don't even enjoy that much. Identify that exact dollar amount, cancel the leak, and immediately set up an automated transfer in your banking app to redirect that exact amount into a high-yield savings account every single month. Set it up once and forget it. Watch what happens in a year. You will have built the very first brick of your new financial 2.0 foundation.
I challenge everyone listening to do exactly that. You directly take that 7-day challenge today. Thank you so much for spending your time leveling up your financial mindset with us. To summarize the core insight of everything we discussed here, true wealth is about buying options and controlling your own time. It is absolutely not about buying status items to impress people you don't even really like. Remember, you do not need perfection. You do not need to track every single penny flawlessly for the rest of your life to succeed. You just need progress. You have the power to rewrite your financial script, starting right now, today. Thanks for spending your time with TeensCore Podcast. Every small financial decision is shaping your future. Choose wisely.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Take control, build those systems, and we'll see you next time.